spring cleaning. And if you would, just make sure you posture yourselves well. And 29. And for all your friends on Facebook and Twitter, let them know that you won't be able to respond to anything they do for the next 24 minutes. So they won't get mad at you and you abandon them. Just let them know I got something a little better I got to do. 29th chapter, starting at the first verse. Now, the way I'm saying, don't worry, we're gonna be in and out here. You might even be able to still catch the 8 o'clock show. But it's about spring cleaning, and our theme verse was Psalm 51:10. Lord, created me a clean heart and renewing me a right spirit. But this is what I believe the Lord has given us tonight. So 29:1, if you're there, say amen. Amen. I'm going to be reading from the Amplified Bible. These are the words of the covenant which the Lord commanded Moses to make with the Israelites in the land of Moab, besides the covenant which he had made with them in Horeb. Moses called to all Israel and said to them, "You have seen all that the Lord did before your eyes in the land of Egypt to Pharaoh and to all his servants and to all his land. The great trials which your eyes saw." Somebody say, "Which your eyes saw." Which your eyes saw. "The signs and those great wonders. Yet the Lord has not given you a mind and a heart to understand and eyes to see and ears to hear to this day. I have led you 40 years. Somebody say 40 years. 40 years. In the wilderness. Your clothes have not worn out upon you, and your sandals have not worn off your feet." If you would, I want you to look at your neighbor and say, "Neighbor."
Neighbor.
The topic of tonight's discussion is.
The topic of tonight's discussion is
The difference.
the difference.
Praying for a miracle.
Praying for a miracle.
Of endurance.
Endurance.
Versus.
Versus
A miracle.
a miracle
Of conquest.
of conquest.
You may be seated in the presence of the Lord. Now,
Topic one more time, please.
the topic again is the difference between a miracle of endurance and a miracle of conquest.
Thank you.
Amen, somebody.
Amen.
Now, this is extremely significant, and I'm not going to move yet. I'm going to do my best to try to stay in one place tonight, because I want to try to present this in a way that may be encouraging to you, and I want to make sure you take really good notes, because I promise you, if you capture this, this will be very much life-changing for you. The first thing I want to identify is this notion of what a miracle is of endurance. If you look at this particular text, you notice that he highlights the fact that you've seen all that God has done for you, right? You've seen the miracles, the signs, the wonders of God. And not only did you see the miracles and the signs, but yet while you were going through the process in this place called Egypt, your clothes, right? As soon as you came out, then you went through the wilderness, and then you transitioned into the wilderness. But during that time, your clothing or your sandals never wore out. Look at your neighbor and say, they never wore out.
Never wore out.
Why does that even matter? Because what happens, and what I'm finding out today, is that a lot of people now in our church, Brother Tom, they don't really care much about hearing the, Miles Monroe said it this way, they don't really care about the blood anymore. Folk don't really care about being saved from hell anymore. They really want to know, how can I get redeemed and make it through this life? Because I can't even think about where my flight is going to if I'm suffering so bad at the airport. So what we tend to now do as preachers and as leaders and as teachers, we tend to try to encourage you and tell you to seek God for a miracle of endurance. We tell you to believe God as a keeper. Huh? Come on, there's songs about it. There's preachers who holler that God is a keeper. He's a sustainer, right? He's able to make sure that you can make it from A to B. And then we enjoy that. We appreciate that. We even celebrate that. However, that is nothing more than a wilderness mindset. If you want to know a defeated, victorious saint, what do you mean by that? One who has victory but walks in defeat consistently is one who never wants to acquire anything but just wants to make it to the next day. And so what the church has now come into this particular place, and I got to stand for all the preachers, and I'm going to apologize for all of us, because what we have done is we have pacified you with this ideal of endurance and the enduring ability of the gospel and the way in which the church should help you meet your needs just to get from this day to that day. But we have failed tremendously in giving you the necessary abilities and qualities to move from here to a place of conquest.
Amen.
We tell you, go ahead and go to work, and you do your best, and you give God glory on the job, never saying, is God calling you to more? Why? Because what happened, let me be honest with you, since I got the mic, I'll tell my business. The reality is, as long as you keep on working that job, you keep on paying your tithe and offering, surely there's no reason for me to tell you to rock the boat. As long as you keep on showing up, struggling, but you keep saying, I press my way here in the house of God, makes you sound all spiritual. But when you go home, you have no tangible tools to fight off the works of the enemy or the calls of your flesh in the midnight hour. The struggle that I'm having nowadays, Pastor Carl, the fact that I'm looking at the people in which I've taught and the people that have sit under the ministry. And I'm asking myself, God, am I really effective? Why? Because it seems as though that I can give them something that will make them shout, holler, and cry. However, I haven't given them anything to make them consider the actions and the commitments of their ways. And yet, and still, at 3 in the morning, they're still haunted by demons that have never been dealt with.
All right.
The struggle. This notion of endurance. But listen to this call. He said, Moses called to all, second verse, called to all of Israel and said that you have seen all that the Lord has done. And this is the most convicting, indicting part of this particular text. You're not ignorant to what God did.
Right.
Some of us in here, you are not ignorant to the works of God. You have seen the miracles of God work in your life. But yet you still believe that the world has something to offer that's more valuable, more attractive than the things of God. Oh, come on. The easiest thing it is to say, well, you know, Pastor, I can't necessarily be at service. You know, they called me for overtime, so, you know, I got to go ahead and make that money. Or, you know, Pastor, I'm just not feeling well, so I can't be at service today. But let that be the story that you need to tell your folks. And you'll find every drug possible. You'll find every doctor you can get. Why? Because we've taught you about enduring and just being a good endurer or a good sheep. And just go ahead and just listen. And never thinking that God may actually have more than just a sheep's mentality for you. You know, it's sad because I'm just thinking, and I know this is revival, and I know you're about ready to run, shout, and spit and scream, but before we get to that point, I want to make sure that we clearly understand this particular indictment that God brought against me and you, and He's saying to us, why do you really want to endure in a place you don't even want to be?
Amen.
All right.
I'm talking to you. Why do you want to stay in that abusive relationship? Huh? Why do you want to keep letting that particular person beat on you? Why do you want to continue to listen to that voice degrade you? I hear you right now all the way up. You're thinking so loud. That ain't happening to me. That ain't my story. Well, let me explain and let me talk to that person or talk about that person who's abusing you. I'm talking about the negative things in what you say about yourself. Always saying what you can't do and what you won't do and what you won't accomplish. I'm talking about that person who's battering and beating you. I'm talking about that thought that you have in yourself when you constantly come against the actions and the visions and the dreams that you have simply because you think you're too old, or you think you're not smart enough, or you simply think you're not in the right position, or you think that truly this isn't the season for you. Not realizing that you're doing nothing but battering your own self. You're committing violent acts against yourself when you refuse to let God use you in everything He's called you to be.
Amen.
Y'all all right?
Yeah.
You blessed?
Amen.
Has the Lord been kind?
Yes.
Then my question to you is, what will it take for you to move to that next place? Let me give you another verse now. Go right here. He said on verse 4, yet the Lord has not given you a mind or a heart to understand or ears to see or excuse me, eyes to see or ears to hear to this day. Watch this. What he's saying to you very clearly in this particular context is that even though you're looking at something, Pastor, even though right here, Joan, you can see something right here in front of you, but your understanding of it is so clouded and so diluted that you can't even properly surmise what God is doing. Okay, watch this. You know what's funny? I'm going to talk to just about a group of folk. Now, I know this ain't nobody in here, so don't nobody look around here. This is not about nobody in here. I'm not talking about nobody. I'm telling you, listen, it ain't nobody in here I'm talking about. I said I'm saying I ain't talking about nobody in here. Now listen, because, you know, I've heard people say that whenever, you know, tax time come around, that's when I'll be able to catch up. Or if I could just get that big bonus. Or if I can go ahead and finally hit that number. Now, I ain't talking about, man. Because we don't believe that we have the mindset or the ability to change a habit that has been detrimental to us. We don't believe that we can take the strategic step and make a difference in our life, and thus we continue to suffer every moment because we are unwilling to change our ways. Because then we had that little victim mentality. You know how we do, Richard? Well, you know, the only reason why I'm being held back is because of that old man on my job. You know, well, if it wasn't for my mother treating me this old way, and here's my favorite one, Sister Gabriel. You know, and if them folk would just give me what I'm asking for, but never at all looking internally in ourselves and saying, maybe the problem has everything to do with me. Maybe that's the real issue. The fact that internally, I am not willing to face who I really am. Since I got the mic, I'll tell my business because I know you won't admit to yours, so I'll tell you my stuff. All right, so I had to, you know, in the last few weeks, what I've been doing is really living on this kick, Pastor Tim, about this notion of being my authentic self. I want to be who I really am, who I really believe that God has called me to be, right? That's who I really want to be. But then I had to admit that I live in fear of what other people might say about who I really am. You know how it is, Pastor, when you find some latest greatest and you believe it really came from God, but then you go around and ask your amen crew, and this is the first time ever that they didn't amen you, and then you start doubting and wondering, did it really come from God? Now, I know none of y'all do that. I know you ain't got nobody that you bounce stuff off of. But I'm talking about the stuff that I do, Mother. This is just stuff that I do. And so when I present something that I believe is genuinely from God, and I believe this is a thing that will finally get me over the hump, and I'll finally be able to break this 9-to-5 mentality, or I'll be able to break this depression mentality, or I'll be able to come out of this struggle, or I might finally watch this value myself and stop selling myself and putting myself on discount so I can just be with somebody. And when I finally break that mindset, somebody flew around and say, well, don't you know you got a good man right there? Like, remember I told you that story about there was that Facebook post that the guy said, well, you know, he may beat me until I bleed, but at least I got a man. He may cuss me out every day, but at least I got somebody. And then you know what we do. You know what we do. This is what we do. Here we go. Then this is what we do. We don't do the obvious and deal with the problem. We simply say, well, you know, we're going to pray for you. Now, listen, I understand you struggling and you going through your little issues. However, we're going to pray for you. We're going to believe that God's going to fix it. Now, see, this is the difference between the world and the church here. Now, see, in the church, we get so spiritual when there are problems that we don't really know if we want to deal with or not. So what we do is we cop out and say we're going to pray. And truth be told, unless they're praying right then, they probably ain't going to pray for you. But in the world, though, the one thing that happens when they find a brother or sister or somebody who's overtaken and they're discouraged or in their negative situation, what I found is, especially in the Jamaican community, what they would do is they call their friend, they say, wow, come here, man. You need to come and go get these folks. They running crazy around here. And what we're going to do, we're going to posse up. And we're going to run through them. Yeah. And why do they say such? Because there's something about this notion called family that they really value, that when one of their own is discouraged, one of their own is going through a problem, that they said, you know what, I need to actually make a physical response. Why does that matter to you and I today? Many of you have seen our brothers and sisters in the church going through actual issues and problems, and your only response was abstract when God gave you the ability to do a concrete thing, and you refused to actually help that person. How dare we see our brother or sister in a situation, and all we want to do is just say a few nice words. Let me finish. All right, here's my last point. I'll be out of here. He said, this is very interesting to me. The Bible says, if you would, that fifth verse. Can somebody go to that fifth verse for me, please? 29, 5, I'm still here. Are you there? You got it? Can you stand? Can you read that for me? Just the fifth verse. Can you read it like your coach it though for me? So go ahead. Put a little bass in your voice. Just the fifth verse.
And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Your clothes are not waxing old upon you, and thy shoes is not waxing old upon thy foot.
This last point is about this notion of moving from, how do you move? This is the way or the process in how we move from asking God to keep us, for God to now empower us to conquer. What we have to do is we have to go shopping. Okay. Okay, I know that, but that's the devil. That's not the church. You're the wrong thing. Okay, let me try this side. What you have to do is go shopping.
Amen.
Did you catch that, Sandy? Did you get that in the spirit? And the reason I'm saying that to you because what we must do, Sister Lynn, is we must now exchange the clothing that we wore for 40 years. Okay, let me say this. You have to now take off the outfit and the very things. Okay, let me go a little more concrete. You have to now take off your conniving ways. You have to now take out your backbiting ways. We talk about spring cleaning. We got to now examine ourselves and ask ourselves now, we're no longer in a place where we got to hustle, flow, and steal.
Right.
We're no longer in a place where we gotta bat our eyes and wink our eyes and we gotta smack our lips and we gotta shake our hips to get what we want.
Right.
Now we're in a different place where now we're in the Lord's church and we're in this place of a new king. We are now a new, if any man be in Christ, he is now a new creature. But see, the thing about being a new creature, you can't wear the old creature's clothes.
All right.
And see, what happened is God gave them an ability to sustain and to stay where they were. So while you were going through those areas and those bad relationships, or you were going through those areas where you were tormented in your mind, God found some way to help you and make you maintain while you were going through the struggle. However, now that you have excelled and moved to the different place, you are now called to exchange these places of hardship for now new places of praise and new places of conquest. You do not need God to keep you. You need God now to finally deliver you.
Amen.
You are now in a place where you must ask God to take away everything that does so easily beset you. You will not, the reason why you can embrace change because you're so used to this mediocrity lifestyle. And because your mind is so mediocre, you can't see anything great. That's why, Pastor, I'm going to talk to you because they might have hit this one. This is the reason why when you fool around and get a vision, and they fool around and tell you, you know, Pastor, I want you to go ahead and do $1 million campaign. The Lord told you to speak in the middle of the night. You don't do the campaign. And then your folks fool around and say, Pastor, you barely making $20,000. And I said, I ain't got nothing to do with that. Because I see something different. Because I realize where I've been. I understand what the food stamp mentality looks like. However, God is trying to translate me over into a different place. And the problem is, I can't wear what I had before, or I can't hope for those miracles of endurance. But now watch this. I actually got to work. If I want to make more than $500 a month, I actually got to watch this. I'm going to cuss at your mother. I got to get a job. I ain't got to hustle, I ain't got to borrow, I ain't got to beg, I ain't got to steal. I got to work now. And because I'm willing to work now, God can use me in areas that I've never been in before.
Amen.
God can expand my thinking. But my question to you today is why do you prefer just being Catholic? One of my good old Lutheran friends said this, and this really blessed me, Ron. He gonna love this. He said, Lutherans know what they're saved from, but they fail to understand what they're saved for. And that goes with a lot of church members. We know what we've been saved from, death and sin and hell and all of that, but we fail to understand why we're still alive. What happens now after the tomb? Should we stand and marvel like in Acts 1 and 8, looking at him, gazing, and just simply looking at where Jesus just went, but realizing that he went up, commissioning us to go in? Yeah. We are commissioned. Well, Pastor, I'm comfortable. That's fine. Well, watch God rock your comfort.
Amen.
Watch God tell you to do something that you can't do by yourself. Watch God challenge your mind. You keep talking about, I'm praying that my mother get right or my family gets right, but they get in a position and then God says, okay, they gonna get right as soon as you start preaching to them. Well, they ain't gonna hear me. I ain't saying nothing about you thinking you're gonna be successful. I said about your obedience is the thing that's gonna make the difference. Let me say this, and then we're gonna be done. Obedience is better than sacrifice. But obedience is a voluntary action. What if, as Don begins to play some meditation, what if, Pastor Carl, what if God was really waiting on the church? And what if every problem that America's facing was due to the church staying silent? What if this issue with transgender bathroom usage, and what if these issues about gay rights, and what if these issues about overdoses in our county? They said every day there's an overdose in St. Clair County. What if all of that was a reflection of the position of the church? Because we're comfortable inside of our padded pews and our crystal chandeliers and our nice, comfortable programs, and people are dying every day. What if the 70 churches in our Blue Water area would actually just take the 3 to 5 mile radius and say, we'll do, at least once a week, we'll do a prayer walk, and we're going to pray? What if they just, what if the church actually said, we're going to actually fulfill the Great Commission? What if the church actually thought that the job of the Great Commission was more than the pastor's job?
Amen. Amen.
What if you actually, that term you glorify so much, Christian, what if you actually were Christ-like? Your entire department would be saved, sanctified, Holy Ghost filled, fire baptized with a mighty burning fire, right? Well, Pastor, what do you mean? You're trying to say I'm not? No, I'm just simply saying, Jesus said, you'll know them. This is so convicting. He said, you'll know them by the what? The fruits. And I'm talking to me. Now, let me just say this about me, sure, I'm talking about me. What if I could look around right now and say, this is my fruit? Is God pleased? What can I say? Well, God, you know it's Wednesday night. Well, God, you know. Well, God, you know. But when he gave me the authority and the anointing and the power, he never said, well, Trey, you know. Well, you know. If you're here tonight and you know that there's something more that God is calling you to, there's something bigger than just sitting here looking cute.